It's really about living so in the now that what you need to know, when you need to know it, happens as it arises, not a moment too soon or a moment too late, which is about being in presence with a capital P.
Hello and welcome back to Remember Why You're Here, a podcast for seekers and sensitives where you can relax, receive, reconnect to yourself, and remember the most important thing of all, why you're here. I'm Asia Suler, author, earth intuitive teacher, and today I'm so excited because I get to sit with an incredible astrologer, someone who I've known now for over 10 years, the amazing Liz Gunn. So Liz, I'm going to read your official bio first, and then I want to talk a little bit about like how I know you and who you are in this community because you're like such a pillar here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I have it written down. Liz Gunn is an intuitive astrologer and channel with over 35 years of practical application as a skilled translator of planetary influences. Based in Asheville, North Carolina, with a dedicated client base both locally and internationally, Liz has facilitated over 5,000 client readings and connected with hundreds more through her small group gatherings and public talks. Her readings specialize in shifting your perceptions in order to see the gift in life's challenges. Liz is especially committed to cultivating self-awareness through self-acceptance within the LGBTQIA community and offers uncommon wisdom that will inspire you to find faith and meaning in your own story. So, yeah, as I mentioned before, Liz, I've known you now for over 10 years. So you've like seen me through different iterations in my life. You are such a you are such a prized community elder, like, and I say this with just like the fullness of my heart, like the groups that I run in, the people that I know, everyone's like, oh, I'm having a hard time, I'm going to call Liz. Or like, I literally was at a gathering the other week and someone was like, I wasn't going to come. I was in such a hard place, but then I had a reading with Liz and now here I am.
Wow.
And so, yeah, you really are, someone who has uplifted our community in so many ways, like someone who we look to as an elder. And I'm just so grateful to you for like what you're holding down in this community. So I'm so grateful that you are willing to come onto the podcast and share your wisdom and your channeling really for what's in the air stepping into 2026.
Well, thank you. And thank you for saying that, because honestly, I feel like I, over the last 15 or so years of doing this work full time in Asheville, like I don't think that I know like how known I am because I never leave the house because I'm always doing readings.
Yeah.
And so it means a lot to have that reflection, just from the sort of threshold that I'm crossing and that affirmation, because every time someone contacts me for a reading, I say, well, how did you hear about my work? And I've had people say, like, what do you mean? Like, how did I hear about your work?
You're like, everybody knows.
So I forget that because I just feel like I'm always just opening the door and inviting people in, or turning Zoom on since 2020 and inviting people in and just being in that commitment and kind of, not that I forget the impact, but I just am always in the container. So I feel like in a nutshell, I'm really good at helping people feel really good about the really hard things happening in their life.
Which is like what we need basically to keep going.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm curious as we get started, because this is just such a fun thing to tune into for people. Like what is your sun, moon, and rising?
I'm a sun sign Taurus. I am a Cancer rising and a moon in Sagittarius.
Yes. We have that in common. So yes, I am a Cancer sun. I am a Leo rising, and I also have my moon in Taurus.
Yes, and our moon and our sun in Taurus are hanging out very closely together.
I love that. And now we're hanging out really closely together.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, so we talked a little bit before we started, and we were both like, we don't know where we're going to go. We were both like, let's see where we get taken. But I knew I wanted to start with this question. So we're going to start here, and then, yeah, let's we'll just see where we go.
Okay.
So the question is, if you had to describe the energetic weather of this year in just a few words, what would you say?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'll try to describe it in a few words. And yesterday when I was sitting with that question and tuning in the way that I do to get the answer so that the answer is not coming from like my front mind, this analogy came to me. And it was, I don't know if you've ever read the book Stardust by Neil Gaiman.
I haven't.
It's I know there's controversy around him that I'll acknowledge, and we'll just set that over here, whatever. Yeah. But the book I read maybe a year ago, and that felt like the download for the answer to that question. And so just quickly, it's a young adult, but I love that, fantasy fairy tale.
Yes. And all those things.
It's all those things. And it's set in 19th century England in this fictional town called Wall. And the reason that the town is called Wall is because there is this stone wall that runs on the edge of town, and the wall is the border to the fairy world, to the fairyland. And there's this main character, Tristan Thorn, who every 9 years, which is so interesting because that's a nodal opposition cycle where karmic influences kind of are brought to light. But every 9 years, there's a market behind the wall where humans are allowed to go to the fairy market. And so it's kind of this, when I think about the energetic weather for the year, I feel like it's this moment where we're all going through the wall into the fairy world. And in my version of the reality, that would be the cosmic galactic world as well. So this merging of like interdimensional reality. But in the book, Stardust, the reason it's called that is because Tristan doesn't know that he's actually half fairy. And so the Stardust theme to me is, for the year, is that it's like we are going to have access to the stardust that lives inside the molecular magic of our bodies, because we think about, we think about the planets out there, at least the paradigm. Not that I think that, but I know the paradigm thinks the planets out there are moving and causing things to happen. But really, we are that same stardust. So it's not causing anything to happen. It's that we are responding as if we are the stars and planets themselves, and learning how to discern who's talking is something that I love to talk about. So the energetic theme of the year is, I think each one of us are going to encounter facets of our own stardust essence and bring that into form, into actualization, into expression. So that was what I got for the theme.
Okay, I'm here for that. And so in that theme, I'm so curious, what do you feel like is the wall? That wall that's been there, what is that? If that's
what is the wall?
Yeah, if we're going beyond the wall,
it's our fear. The wall is our fear, our own, Earth is a place of limitation and designed that way for our benefit. But everything expresses we're in Saturn territory. So here we are. But I feel like, part of the experience of duality and being in this world of limitation is to really lean into the discomfort of our fear in order to be able to not break through, although there is a breakthrough quality of energy for the year with Uranus, but kind of to find the opening that is our sort of personal passageway into that realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me what's going on with Uranus?
Okay.
What's that happen? What's happening with that?
So I love the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And I was saying this yesterday, to our mutual friend, that, people talk about the big three being the sun, moon, and rising.
Yeah.
And for me, and how I have been oriented to my relationship with the planets and the planetary beings, is the big three to me are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
Okay, so now I have to ask you then, what are your big three then? What's your Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto?
Okay, and again, generational. Uranus is in Leo, late Leo. My Neptune is in Scorpio, and my Pluto is in Virgo. So these are all, I'm the Pluto and Virgo generation. It's all generational, but those are my big transpersonal 3.
Yeah. And you told me like literally right before we recorded, and now I'm like, can I remember what my 3 are? So I'm 38 right now.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah. Can you remind me? Yeah.
And your big 3.
Yes, please remind me. Yes.
Your big 3 are Uranus and Sag, Neptune and Capricorn, Pluto and Scorpio.
Okay, so that's who we're working with. That's the big 3 who's like in this room right now.
Yeah, those are the archetypal, transpersonal, evolutionary heavy hitters that really are the architects of deep change in our lives. They connect to these long arcs of evolutionary time, which is what I'm interested in, is how the soul evolves through time in a long, like kind of like the long calendar of the Mayans. And Uranus, for how I work with Uranus, is the catalytic impulse of the soul to evolve. So there's this circuitry from Uranus, and Uranus is moving from its 7-year stay in Taurus, which is a very different quality of energy that we kind of danced with for a minute when Uranus went into Gemini on July 7th briefly before it retrograded back. But on April 26, 2026, it'll move into Gemini full time. And it's going to be in this conversation with Pluto that humanity has never had an experience of, the quality of conversation between Pluto and Uranus's sign Aquarius, being the modern ruler. Saturn is the ancient ruler. But it's a very galactic, fast-moving transmission. Yeah.
Tell me more about Pluto too, now that I know like they're going to be in conversation. Like what's the energy that Pluto...
So Pluto takes close to 250 years to do a full rotation around the sun. It's far out. It's a very slow orbit. And that is where, for me, I've had Pluto is it's kind of my BFF. But it's taken a long time.
I was going to say that must have taken some work.
Because with Pluto, I think we first get the knock from Pluto and then, shut the door, turn out the lights, and put a bookcase against the door and be really quiet.
Yeah.
But Pluto has this quality of power and energy and force that is inherently designed in our molecular wiring to alchemize and transmute and transform and bring us through the continuum around power themes, from the love of power to the power of love. So we're moving into a quality of energy that connects to the power of love in a broader way, connected to community, humanitarian, egalitarian, all the new paradigm energies that are wanting to be birthed out of the fracture and collapse of the patriarchal paradigm. So Pluto in Capricorn from 2008 until November 19th, 2024, was really highlighting, illuminating through all the ways we know that that's happened. It's like the shadows of our consciousness, of our cultures, of our reality, of our communities now have a light shining on them. And there's been this like permission slip for a lot of really bad behavior.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Pluto-Uranus trine, which is this harmonious aspect, is going to be a fast-moving energy along with some other things to start to bring us further over this threshold into a dimension of reality that I don't think anyone knows what that's going to be. I don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So thinking about, asking like, what is the year ahead? If I were to answer really honestly, I would say I have no idea.
That there's a lot of mystery.
It's a lot of mystery.
Because things feel like they're moving so rapidly and changing so rapidly. And we can look and see like, okay, what are going to be the transits? What's going to be happening in the stars, but how that translates
to our lives.
And I guess it really depends too on like the choice points of like how we're choosing
to
meet what changes personally and also collectively.
And that's such an important, that was in thinking about your questions and how to answer. And because I know people, we're wired to want to know what's ahead.
Yeah.
We're so wired to like tell me. And then I think honestly, the image I'm having is that wall. That takes us into the galactic fairy realm, we'll call it, because the non-human, the meeting of physical and non-physical, of non-ordinary and ordinary, of our luminous selves. But the desire to know actually keeps us in limitation. And that's something I've discovered. Everything I talk about is not a concept. It's like actually how I've had to change my own orientation to life over 40 years of, actually not how I've had to change, but how I have been changed.
Yeah.
It's not how I've had to, because we're always in choice. So I never had to, but I've wanted to. And so there's always been this allowing of, being available to be taught what the astrology is, because I've got a lot of books too, and you can look in a book. And I've realized in some things that I've been in the last couple of years where if I look it up, all I think is this says absolutely nothing about the truth of what this experience is.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so passionate about readings, is because I'm obsessed with learning about what it all means. And I feel like every person I meet with teaches me what it means.
That's beautiful.
And then I get to like metabolize that in my own wisdom and then share that. So it's this constant reciprocity of sitting with people. And I think every client is my teacher. Yeah. Because the planetary beings are actually speaking through them. So the planetary beings are teaching me through what you say, like when we were sitting before.
Yeah.
And I listen, I'm hearing on a lot of different levels.
And well, I'm curious then on that note, because we were talking before about this being like a year where there's more embodiment, like people coming more into their bodies, more into like really feeling those like planetary influences, becoming more of a channel for that within their own selves, like this sort of embodied knowing. And I'm curious if anything came through or you have any insight for folks around like, okay, well, how do I do that? Or what does that look like? Especially because there can be such a, like, bless our hearts, like such a desire to like look at the predictive astrology for that week and be like, basically with kind of this sense of like, will I be spared? Like I feel like that's like our vibe often, like, will I be spared? But like what you're talking about is like the empowerment of like really feeling for yourself, like what do I feel? What am I experiencing? Like, what is my personal connection with this planet? And I'm just curious from your experience if there's anything that can like helps people to do that.
Okay. Let me see. Well, one thing I would say, because I don't know if all your listeners are all into astrology.
I think it runs the gamut. I think everyone's like interested
in some capacity.
Yeah, like if you're listening, you're interested,
Yes.
But like their knowledge
varies.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah. So one thing that I have kind of come to understand, I think, over the decades is really the precept of know thyself is the anchor point. And that is from within. And of course, we're all, content downloaders. We want to know, we want information, we want insight from different people. And like I had said, information and content does not equate to wisdom. And so what I would say is put the apps down, get off social media, stop listening to TikTok, like take a break and tune in to a quality of receptivity that we all have access to. And because astrology has exploded online in the last 12 years, it makes it easy to think that information equates to wisdom, and information has no nuance. And so the planets are very nuanced. And so I've learned, Saturn, Pluto, Mercury, like every one of them feel like animated, like they're actual living presences to me, and they communicate to me. And I know often who's communicating, but you don't have to know any astrology ever to access the magic of the planets. Because if you're living your life and following what's of value and importance and meaning to you, and whatever we'll say the healing journey is asking, then you're going to be living in coherence with the planetary archetypes in your own body. They're going to be alive and well and informative in ways that are far richer than content. And so, but it's a practice. It is a nuanced practice. And that's actually, when we get to it later, something that I just received a transmission about. Oh, you should teach about this. I don't really have more than the outline, but the way I think to really work with the astrology is to be present in the now, to not go, what's happening in May, because then our mind wants to conceptualize an outcome that's going to make us comfortable.
Yeah.
Which is what keeps us in limitation, because we define things as good or bad, and comfort would fall in the bad category, or lack of comfort would fall in the not good category. When discomfort right now is really part of the metamorphosis that is required to be shaped by the mystery and to encounter the mystery in a more malleable way. And so for me, I can only speak how I have learned to do it is, honestly, I hardly ever know what's happening down the road. I mean, I do, but I don't think about it.
Yeah.
Because I listen to stuff. I mean, I am fascinated and interested, and I have key people that I really value their information and their wisdom. But I don't really keep my eye on a signpost down the road. I know what's going on right now, and I work with that, because from a soul's perspective, working with where you are right now is going to inform that thing that happens down the road. But if your eye is on what's down the road, you're going to be making choices to make sure you feel okay and get what you want and are attached to an outcome. And that is one way to do it. But I have just found that taking the next right step means that I'm more available for serendipity, synchronicity, and the magic of the way that the planets want to express through surprise, through Uranian kind of like shocks that actually don't have to throw me, break the ground beneath me, but they might relocate me into a much better situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's something I have started to say to myself in the recent years is, okay, if I think something's going to be some way, I can at least take heart, because I know it's not going to be that way. Like, because even if it's like adjacent or similar, because we all get downloads of guidance, and we get sort of visions of the future, and sometimes it's close, but it's never like exactly it. And I think that's kind of by design, that it's like, if we think something's exactly it, it's like actually kind of comforting, because you're like, okay, it's not going to be exactly that, but it might be a few degrees this way, it might be a few degrees that way, it might be totally different.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that is, I love that you're bringing it in as like, almost like this element of like distraction, honestly, from like what it is we're here to do. And I remember this Taoist teacher, Jeffrey Yuen, hearing him say that like information is entertainment.
Yeah.
And it's good entertainment. I love information, but that ultimately, in terms of like the soul's growth and the soul's journey, that it is so much more about that inner listening, that embodiment, like what you are receiving.
And that's more important now than ever, because as you're talking, one of the things about 2026 is we're entering territory that is unknown to every human on the planet. We're entering sort of an astrological landscape that, from a vibrational expression, meaning a vibrational expression through our lived experience, like who's lived through a collapse before? Certainly maybe in other timelines that are running parallel, but we're entering territory where humanity is moving, through, and I'm not proficient in the Mayan technology, only enough to know the resonance of these epochs of change and the evolutionary waves and ebbs and flows, but we're moving into a dimensional experience of reality that is really going to create invitations for us to meet our galactic selves and ancestors and friends. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm already starting to get some knocks on the door, and we don't know the territory we're moving into. So to be in the unknown is not what we're conditioned in all of us who are alive now are not inherently conditioned to rest in the mystery. We're conditioned to, set a goal. There's the mountain. Here's your pack. Get to base camp. Climb the mountain. Oh, then there's the next one, and there's the next one. And things are, in the way that I have been receiving information and understanding, the reality is not set that we're moving into.
Yeah, I follow.
And so that's why being present and taking the next step is where each one of us becomes shapeshifters to create form out of formlessness. And we do it with our own lives, and that becomes the contribution of our solar essence, our life force, in this like very high, pure, to the best of our ability, because we're always working with the things we're working with being human says. You have a body, you have a reality, you have family, you've got relationships, and not everyone is on the same page, and our bodies aren't always on the same page with what we desire. So
yes.
So I feel like encouraging people to use all the tools in their tool bag and a hefty dose of I don't know. It's like a big open space for I don't know. But in that I don't know, like I wake up in the morning sometimes and might know that I've got some inner dichotomy and challenges going on. And so my new prayer is, okay, I'll take a miracle today, dealer's choice.
Yeah, I like that. Like you choose, but I would like one
but I'll take it however you want to give it to me. And then I don't attach in my mind what that miracle has to be. And inevitably it comes, and it can be, in such subtle ways. It can be in big ways. It can be in profound ways. It can be in ordinary ways, but it's still a miracle.
Yeah. I love that. That's knowledge, wisdom that we need right now. And I'm curious, like looking at this year without stepping too much into the information predictive quality, like what are some of the energies or like big energies or transits that you see that are like helpful for that, supporting us?
Yeah. And I mean, that is definitely something to have on your map. So I guess by the time this airs in February, of course, the big headline news for that period will be Saturn and Neptune back or in 0 degrees of Aries meeting up on February 20th. So that is a big storyline for all of us that is going to translate into something personal. But it feels like, when we're recording this now, we're really closing out in our own lives and realities, storylines that hold a lot of grief in the body and experiences and karmic contracts and soul mandates that are connected structurally, I would say cellularly, to a time that is closing, not a time we're entering. And so I think Saturn and Neptune, I feel the Saturn and Aries energy specifically, it's hard for me to know what Neptune in Aries is going to be like because I just don't. So a lot of times I just learn as I go.
Yeah.
Basically, I learn as I go through real life experience. So I don't really, I do feel like Neptune in Aries is going to be much more around taking the spiritual frames that we've all been in are going to require a different kind of action instead of what Neptune in Aries since 2011 has just been this rise in all kinds of wellness and spirituality stuff online that is a blend of a lot of different energies that are hard to sift through and don't always contain like the essence of something that feels good.
Yeah.
But the Saturn in Aries feels, when we think about that wall or the structure or limitation, I feel it as an energy of disciplined courage. And I love the root word of discipline is disciple. So like being a disciple of our own courage, which really translates to being a disciple of following our heart. The root word of courage is cor, which is heart. And if I'm saying that correctly, but, so there's that. And then we've got eclipses in February, and I just always feel like, and in early March, and I always just feel those as these amazing portals and doorways. And then in April, there's this big confluence of Aries energy, and that's when I pulled your chart up and said, what is happening with Asia with this, and what that is. I think it's I could pull it up on my phone, but I'm just going to try to do it by memory. But there's many planets in Aries at that time. And so that just feels as if there's rocket fuel, that we're all kind of coming out of this sluggish, year of finishing up. And certainly here in Western North Carolina, all the things that we have worked with and, but it does feel as if that's this, like from the equinox on, I could say, this energy of rocket fuel saying, you ready to be the new human? That your soul said, now, you're lucky enough to be here during an epoch change. What a gift that is. How are you going to courageously move ahead in this very dynamic, pioneering, assertive, non-aggressive, empowered, standing in the truth of your own fire kind of a way? So I'm very curious about that, and all of that's happening. And that, I think that's going to be a destiny marker point for you, actually, with your North Node in Aries, and your Aries midheaven and your Jupiter in Aries. It just feels, we're all being called to the front lines because no one's coming to save us. There's no ETs coming to save us. There's no, I think that we have lots of friends who are going to start revealing themselves. And certainly I'm on board with all the 3i Atlas stuff right now and not even really knowing what that is, but being very curious around the codes of ancient wisdom that are being emitted onto the planet. And as they're emitted onto the planet, they're emitted into our bodies. And that's why our bodies hold everything we need, not the internet. So that Aries energy in April feels really significant for everyone. And you'd have to dial into each person's chart for what that is. And then April 26 is definitely something that I'm paying attention to because I have such a love for the planet Uranus and the planetary beings connected to Uranus. And I love them all, but they're like children. Who's your favorite? They're not children. They're actually elders, beyond elders. I'm their child. But it's like mini parents or something. But Uranus goes back into Gemini on April 26th. And that feels like another kind of speeding up because that's when it starts in this more, this more open conversation with Pluto. And so we're going into territory that is beyond the form of anything we have known. And we're going to all be receiving information through how we attune our own channel. And our channel is our body and our nervous system and our hearts. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel that so strongly. Yeah. And I think for me, especially the last, 4 years since having my daughter, I feel like I've been in this like master class of like the body is your teacher, the body is your dom. Like you must listen to the body, and yeah, just really, really seeing so clearly how the heart, my nervous system, like my soma, like that is the channel, like that is the guide. And I think, yeah, we're in this time, you sort of mentioned it before, where we've been in this like huge rise of, sort of the wellness industry, or just, all the things that are on offer, endless information, endless paradigms, endless practices. And yet the thing that we really most need is like this connection to ourselves and to our bodies. And I love that it sounds like, especially with that Aries energy, like I'm like very much a novice with astrology, but from what I understand with Aries too being like the beginning, that it's like, I think about like a baby being born and like how much they're like in their bodies and they're like, okay, this is like my form and this is what I'm getting used to. And so like, I think about that moving into this, I forget what you called it in Aries. It's like just a buildup of a bunch of
Saturn and Neptune in Aries, the conjunction when they're holding hands in the sky at 0 degrees Aries, like that's the beginning point, the axis mundi. Aries is the beginning of the zodiacal orientation, the tropical zodiac. It's that beginning point, and it feels like a beginning point for humanity in a way we've never known it before. And so thinking about the soma and the body, and that's, we're going to have a lot of fire, and we're moving from earth, water in this time frame into fire and air, which is a very different elemental quality of expression for each of us. And to anchor, I think about our bodies as the conduit and the vessel. And I think the thing to help with that somatic acclimation to these higher frequency energies is to work with our vessel. And I don't mean in the way that the wellness influencers want to, market a this or a that or a plan. I'm talking about how are we managing intake of thought forms? How are we digesting and assimilating? That's a very Mercury Virgo quality of working with the mind-body aspect of information, which is different than the Mercury Gemini working with it. But to really coming back to the wall, what are our boundaries around time and energy, and really our default conditioning to patterns of busyness or people-pleasing or acceptance or performative needing to be responded to or seen in a certain way. I'm a real proponent from my own experience of embracing insecurity.
Wow, I love that.
As a way to work with coming into authenticity, to coming into, that word's thrown around a lot, but authenticity is an aspect of individuation, meaning we're individuating into an expression of self that is as free as possible of distortions, meaning other people's projections, our own projections, or distortions of just an overconsumptive, informative reality where more information is going to. And I actually catch myself. It's like sometimes I'm in such discomfort. I just want to know the thing that's going to pull me out of discomfort.
Of course. It's so human.
It's so human.
Yeah.
And yet it's like grasping at the wind for an anchor. It just doesn't work. And you do it enough, it's fine. Like, screw it. I'm not, but then you catch yourself because the discomfort just can throw us into, a catapult of default conditioning.
Yeah.
So I think for everyone would be really 2026 is especially going into it, leading into that fiery energy of April, is pay attention to your default conditioning. I think that's great advice as a way to orient to your availability to be shape-shifted.
And do you get the sense that with the transformation that's offered, like this opportunity that's on offer in April, that like if we like lean into that the going back to that analogy of like going beyond the wall, it's like we're kind of going to be in new terrain then
be in new
for the rest of the year.
And we're really already, in that the new terrain is kind of an interdimensional blending right now. And one of the things that's coming to me around the limitation, the wall kind of theme, which I'm so grateful I got that guidance to use that because it's really helpful, is that we're at a choice point. And I did hear an astrologer who has a lot of wisdom say that this Saturn-Neptune conjunction hasn't happened in 9,000 years. So it's and so what reality was 9,000 years ago and what it is now, well, we can't even measure that because of the quality of quantitative sort of frequency increase. But the thinking about Saturn is the things that fiery energy is going to move all of us in a direction. And so we want there to be a lot of spaciousness as opposed to narrowness. Because the direction is going to get set. And so if you're still in your default, you're going to get that fire is setting up in your default tributary as opposed to a tributary that's really taking you into an expanded state of your own autonomy. And I think that's what we all want. And I think that's part of where, as we stand in our own individuated autonomy, it continues to work with the power over model, and we come shoulder to shoulder standing in our autonomy, and we're helping each other in a lateral way.
I love that
community way.
I love that reframe too of Aries, because so often people are like Aries energy is just out for itself, but it's actually
the shadow side of Aries is aggressive and impulsive and egocentric, and the shadow is always available in all of the archetypes of the sign, and we dance on that continuum. And part of what Saturn does is it takes us through time, is it matures us. That's how we gain wisdom. I had to befriend Saturn. I was 35 going to therapy saying, I want to know what a goal is. Which is so Saturn because of my own family of origin history. But to now be out of my second Saturn return and to feel like I love Saturn, like I freaking love Saturn. And not every, sometimes Saturn's annoying. But yeah, so it is a reframe. Aries is the I am presence. And that feels good to me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I am an Aries North Node though. So I'm like, yes,
and you're near those energies.
And
you've got this. Yeah. So it's taking you into, I think it's taking you into really new territory, into is part of your I am presence and your contribution and your forward facing self that has a pioneering aspect to it, something new. So think about it as a brand new version of you coming forward.
Okay. I'm here for that.
And Saturn is moving towards your midheaven. So it's really like you, as you are moving into the latter part of your 30s and the midlife transits are going to start to, have different mandates and requests for you. It's coming into your authority and your mastery, and in the turn of the wheel, we come into our authority and our mastery. And there's the state of impermanence is always fascinating. The ebb and flow of being on top and then going back down and descending into the underworld and bringing back up the alchemical gold. And then, that's part of the wave of the Mayan collectively.
It's like, you get that level of mastery, then you become a beginner again.
Exactly.
It's like over and over again.
That's where Saturn's like, oh, your insecurity's back. You're going back down. You're going back down, and we're going to let you feel some of the ways that you have some new skill development. But I feel like you're coming into a real time of like birthing new parts of you, or maybe not even new parts of you, but parts of you that are now ready to express. Because that's part of the Uranus energy, is the awakening of dormant DNA, and maybe Pluto and Aquarius as well. And yeah.
Well, I'm excited. Now I'm excited for myself. It does sound though, like, between sort of the end of February and this lineup in April, that there's like kind of this time in between those 2 points of like to get clear?
Yeah, I would say when this airs in February, for people whoever is interested in tuning into that, to just really drop into, one really embodied way to do it is where do I not feel good and where do I want to feel better? I mean, sometimes it's just what is the better feeling option? And we think of discomfort as the not better feeling option, but discomfort is often the doorway to the better feeling option.
I think we need that reminder a lot.
Yeah.
It's like our entire edifice of our culture is built around avoiding discomfort.
Exactly. And that would be, if I could say one thing for the first 3 months of this year, is do not avoid, or 4 months or 5 months or forever months. Who knows?
No.
Don't avoid discomfort, because discomfort is impermanent. And we get very attached to the idea of feeling bad as if we're going to feel that way forever.
Yeah.
But we are inherently malleable. I mean, our bodies, think about aging at 63. Like, I feel the same inside, but the physical structure is impermanent.
Yeah.
Everything is impermanent. Every state of being is impermanent, every moment. And that's always been a source of solace to me, is this won't last forever. And at the same time saying, good God, when is this going to be over?
Totally. I'm like, one day it'll all be over, and I really take solace in that.
Yes. So true.
So I'm curious, because this is something that I am always thinking about as someone who does intuitive readings. I now do like monthly intuitive readings for the podcast. I used to do in-person intuitive readings with people. And it's something I think about often, where, you're pulling, I work with images and metaphors mostly, like sort of the feelings that come through metaphors, the information that will be specific for whoever is hearing it. But I think often about how I receive these images or these metaphors. For example, the year ahead. I've been doing these year ahead readings now for 7 years, and I will get like a certain amount of information around that, or a feeling around it. And then I look back on it and I'm like, okay, like here's all the things, that how that all fit together. And I couldn't have possibly seen it from that perspective. So I think where I'm going with this is, I'm curious now that like 2025 is done, has wrapped up for us, and we're in 2026. It's like, we know 2025 now. We did 2025. So in what ways is 2026 different from 2025? I think that that it just like, it's a helpful anchor point of like, okay, I'm anchored in what was. And so how is what we're moving into in 2026 going to be different?
It's going to be so mind-bogglingly different. It's going to be a very, very fast, accelerated energy. And I know that everyone in 2025, as that wound down, talked about, oh my God, it's already December. Oh my God, the time is so fast. So the acceleration, and I think that the coding coming from the electromagnetic field of the solar system that is receiving new input is translating to a much faster energy in 2026, where I almost feel it like we're so wired. I feel like 2025 was such a culmination of the need to know and the need to make a plan. And it just, in the collapse, nothing went according to plan. And the collapse isn't over, obviously, but in that, nothing went according to plan. So what I really feel like for the energy in 2026 is it feels more like thought, word, and deed happening as an impulse of knowing, like all at once, where we're not going, what am I going to do and who am I going to be and what is the strategy to get there? It feels more like strategic, instinctive action. That's what I am really feeling for 2026, is being able to, and it's really about living so in the now that what you need to know, when you need to know it, happens as it arises, not a moment too soon or a moment too late, which is about being in presence with a capital P. And I talk about it all the time in the sense that, today, the day that this comes out and somebody listens to it is the present moment. Mm-hmm. And we're recording it in December, and that's the present moment. And what is the present moment anyway, when it all happens all at once? And so I think about our relationship to time changing. And I know that I'm releasing some attachment to linear time and opening up into a more expanded, non-ordinary time where everything is happening at once, meaning I can meet aspects of myself that don't require the same arduousness of unpacking parts of layered trauma conditioning. And not that that won't continue, because we're human and, there's always more to be revealed. But I just feel 2026 as being fast, and that we are going to be reminded over and over and over, like we're going to come up against our own mental concepts of known versus unknown. But even more than that, we're going to come up against our awareness of known versus the unknowable. And there's a big difference between the unknown and the unknowable. And I feel like they're going to be hanging out, and we're over here in the third part of that triangle of what we want to be the known. And I think that's something in 2026 that we're all going to be encountering, the mystery from the frame of, I don't frickin' know.
Yeah. And I can't know.
And honestly, as I have aged, I find my nervous system is far more relaxed when I am in the unknown or leaning even further towards the unknowable. When I lean over here to the known, my anxiety spikes. And so I would really encourage people to be aware of your spike in anxiety, your spike in discomfort or anxiety or fear, and your attachment to needing to know. And if you can find a way to relax into the mystery and pray for a miracle, dealer's choice.
Yeah, you were telling me before we started that you're like, some mornings I just am like, I need a miracle today, but it's dealer's choice. Like whatever you want to send me.
And just, and release, a key thing in that would be to release attachment to the how, meaning you can have your desires. Of course, we're human. We're going to want, I have desires. I have intentions. I have things that I want to experience and express in the best possible way. And where I get locked is when I think I'm also in charge of the how that's going to happen. So I say, hold those very human desires of longing and love and, co-creative whatever we want, but to let spirit, the mystery, be in charge of the how.
Yeah.
And that is where miracles and grace and ease and flow come from, is not being in charge of the how, which does not mean that we are still not the captain of our ship. You're not giving up your power. You're actually increasing your power. And this is where the Aries energy in April, I think, is going to give us all a big boost of courage to work in a new way so that we can feel, my courage doesn't come from not being afraid. My courage comes from being massively afraid of certain things, just like anybody else, but recognizing the thread of pattern. If I'm here to take myself into the fullest experience possible, I inevitably will use that courage in spite of my fear to move myself forward.
I'm curious to just tie this into the rest of the year, because I had asked you, before we started, I was like, okay, well, so, what about the rest of the year, and we touched on these like themes of, the unknowable, what's, approaching the mystery, not knowing. And so I feel like this ties into like what you said to me about the rest of the year when I was like, well, what about the rest of the year, Liz?
Should I answer the way I answered?
Yeah.
Well, what about the rest of the year? I haven't looked. I don't know. I have no clue. Like, I haven't tuned in. I don't tune in that way. I feel like, and I think I will own this as my wiring, but I like to be surprised. Like, I'm somebody where I can remember, in my former partnership, she would buy play tickets or something, and I wouldn't want to know anything. I would just want to go to the play and let the play happen and like know zero about it. I love my moon in Sag, loves to go into experiences where I don't know anyone. I have no idea what's going to happen. And that's kind of how I feel about the year. I don't know.
Yeah. It sounds like there's also a lot that is, as you're saying, unknowable. Yeah. So we know the like most recent energies we've been in. We can look at the energies that we're right about to move into. And beyond that, there is a lot that's dependent on our choices.
And the thing is like astrology, like there's always something happening.
Yeah.
And there's always, oh my God, it's Mercury retrograde. Oh my God, it's an eclipse. Oh my God, Mars is square Saturn. Oh my God. And we can live in that way. But the astrology is always happening. And I've just learned, I'm not going to dodge or duck. Come on, just let it happen. But yeah, that's kind of how I think I approach the second half of actually haven't gone beyond Uranus going into Gemini. I feel so almost like, okay, let's just see. And I can't get beyond that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Seems like big things are happening in this first quarter of the year and I also will define the rest of it.
And I think the astrology weather is always available to us. But the biggest piece of advice I would give for this moment in time is the weather is the weather is the weather. It's still it's happening. But when we match the weather that is ahead with the dimensional upgrade that the whole planet and the whole solar system is well underway in, it's really impossible, and it almost feels irresponsible for me to say, look out for this, because everyone's going to approach the weather ahead from their perspective, and our perspective is the lens through which we see everything. And that is undergoing a massive lens cleanse right now. And so it's hard to say what I see now, like, is my lens still needing cleansing? And so I might not be seeing clearly. That feels like the Neptune fog of 29 degrees Pisces as we're recording this. So I'm in liminal land. Like, I'm hanging out at that wall. I'm about to go into the fairy realm. I don't know what I'm going to discover there.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've touched on this, I think, a good bit throughout this, but I'm curious. One of the last questions I had for you was, how do you see like this year, this movement that we're in right now fitting into the larger like soul patterns that are at play on our planet, like in this epoch,
it's huge. How do I see like the larger soul pattern?
Yeah. Like how is like, I'm curious, and like how this year is like fitting into that longer story. And I didn't know this about you before I wrote this question down, but it feels even more pertinent with you naming that, Uranus and Neptune and Pluto are like more for you, more like telling you more.
The big three.
Yeah. They're the big three for you. Like, and those are these planets with these really long cycles and these long, like generational journeys. I'm curious, what you see as sort of like this generational or like soul, larger like program or pattern, that the arc that we're in right now.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like 2012 was such a kind of time stamp that has brought us to this current moment. And when we think about these longer cycles that honestly take us into, for me, links to the immortal, ineffable, infinite nature of existence. That's my playground. But if we can find comfort in releasing urgency, because everything is so urgent right now as part of the collapse, and that urgency has a place. And also, if we can be in this space of duality, of holding that urgency and also holding this sense of the infinite nature of time. It's like we're being rearranged at a molecular level, our bodies. And that's why that's why for the last number of years. I mean, even as we were entering 2020, I was saying in my readings a lot, wow, based on my pattern recognition, it feels like we're reincarnating without dropping the body. That we have our memories, we have our experiences, but we're still in the same vessel. Yeah. But we have to move into a new incarnation. And I think 2026 is the beginning of the new incarnation in a fully formed way, and fully formed meaning like a newborn.
Wow, that feels really profound. And I really resonate with that.
Yeah.
With that turning point of 2020. It's like, it was like a whole new thing started, a whole new existence. And I've been also feeling this sense of like, whatever it was that was starting around then, it's like reaching like some sort of turning point, apex, culmination, beginning again now.
It's like, who do you want to be now as we're in 2026 when this airs in February? Like, who do you want to be? Who have you been longing to be? I feel like that's how I've been orienting to the Saturn, Neptune, and Pisces, is really tuning into my longings. And also the longings that hold a lot of grief, and the longings of whatever, the way that life, takes us there. But the soul story is changing, and which means the form story is changing. And I think we all need to leave a lot of room in our personal realities to dial in back to Saturn, back to discipline. What do we want to be a disciple of? And for me, I want to be a disciple of love and compassion and care for my community, for everyone I encounter. That is my discipleship, is for me. And I know that from my chart. So that takes me into, I've kind of recommitted back to one-to-one readings, which I've never left that, but I've been through so much stuff. Now I'm in this recommitment, is just really people taking time to do inner work, whether it's one-on-one with a really good astrology reading or a really good anything, kind of anything, where you can turn the dial to you specifically.
Yeah.
Because you specifically is the collective.
And
so we are always going out there to dial the collective. But I'm the collective. Yeah. You're the collective. And when we all meet from that discipleship place, then we're working in harmony for the collective from a place of love, which is what we're moving into, is the transcendent power of love. That's what the new paradigm is going to be based in, and I hope I see it in my lifetime.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah.
But we're here for the shifting.
Totally.
And we're a part of that. And everything that you said about that discipleship, like what is your discipleship? That's so much at the heart of, my journey is asking that question. And
I'm
this
not waiting
podcast
to see it. I'm just going to go ahead and be it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And that's where the courage comes in. So we keep weaving it's like DNA. We're moving into a new activation of DNA that people want to call junk DNA, but that is not junk DNA. It is very galactic and has a very important and impactful purpose. And I think that we all, as volunteers to be here on the planet now, this is a place of mastery. So it's no easy feat to say, I want to be in limitation.
I'll sign up for that for whatever reason.
And yet there's so much beauty in the experience of limitation and
creative constraints of existence.
So let's all get the most out of it for the betterment of our collective experience. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Liz, for being here, for giving us this read into the big energies, whether that we're moving through right now, the portals really that are opening for us in this year. I really appreciate your visioning, your channeling, everything that you are bringing in. And I'm curious what you have going on, how people could connect to you if people are listening and being this is this person I want to connect more with, like I'm really feeling and receiving this, like how would people do that?
Okay. Well, I will say I'm not on social media and haven't been for many years. I mean, I'm on there, but I just don't have the energy or the bandwidth. I don't know if I'll be back. So my website, lizgunn.net, is a great way to contact me. I will say, as you know, I'm very relational. Like I like relationships. I like connection. So I don't have online scheduling. It's like email me, text me. I'm very personal in that way. And when I knew you were going to ask me what I have going on, my first thought was like, I don't know. But I will say what I always have going on is my one-to-one readings. So that is a great way to zoom in and see what does it mean for you. And I just sent out something to my client list about looking at astrology as a giant clock and understanding from a galactic perspective what time it is for you. So a reading would be a great time to say, what time is it for me? In a very dialed in, esoteric and practical way. I do have a year-long mentoring experience that's on my website called Gateway to the Mystical Path. That's a 24-session experience over a year's time. And it's not something at this point that with the reading requests that I can do as my full-time work. It's also really deep.
Yeah.
So I'm opening that back up on the equinox for like 6 to 8 people because it's every other week.
Yeah.
So that would be something, people could explore. So I just really received this as a transmission the other day as a small group gathering. And the way I think I would say now as an offering is if anybody wanted to host this on Zoom or in person, if you're in the Southeast, in person, but on Zoom otherwise, I really love doing these very organic small group gatherings. So this would be the way that I wrote it was the living wisdom of the astrology for 2026 is uncharted territory. We all need guides, signposts, and a compass reset for what awaits each of us in this unfamiliar cosmic landscape. No doubt you feel deeply the karmic closure of natural endings, grief, letting go, and the somatic awareness of what the evolutionary collapse we are living through feels like in your body. What if the planets and stars moving through the heavens were galactic neurotransmitters sending signals pertaining directly to you? How might you respond to life, new choices, challenges, and the potential for joy with greater trust? What if the body held the codes for understanding the messages each planet transmitted like keys unlocking a doorway into a new reality? How might you release fear and participate more fully with your one wild and precious life? So it's really about joining a discussion or creating an opportunity for a discussion in a small group way to talk about these. Like, what is it like? What is Saturn feeling like in your body? And then often in a small group, I'll have people's charts and I'll do a Q&A based on this content and I'll offer channeled messages from their chart.
Well, that's brilliant.
So sorry I had to read that, but I literally just did it. And I was like, what did I just say I was going to do?
Awesome.
Yeah. So those are my offerings. It's basically my one-on-one work, the mentoring, and then opening back up to small groups in whatever way that can look like.
Yeah. Awesome, Liz. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everything that you shared. And I'm really grateful for your guidance and your wisdom in this world.
Thank you. And I'm so happy to be on your platform and offering this to the people that love you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz. And thank you to everyone who's been listening. I'm so grateful for your presence here. So grateful for all the ways now in which you've walked with me for almost a year in this podcast. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of this podcast. If you have not yet left a rating or review, it would just mean the world to me. It would be one of the biggest blessings if you did that. If you love this episode, I'd love to hear about it. You can leave me a voice message over on my website, asiasuler.com/remember. And I hope that what we talked about today, the energies, the weather that we've explored that we're walking into for 2026 really helps you in your evolution, in your unfolding, and in remembering that most important thing of all, why you're here.